In my short video, Paradise Stolen, I made the claim that for the money, your money, spent in the past 10 years on war, the government could have built a small home on a small plot of land in a small community for every family in America. I used this as an analogy of what could be purchased for the money spent on illegal and immoral wars. I'm not saying that the government should build homes for every family in America. But then again, if you are determined to piss away $6 trillion anyways, then why not spend it on a utopian dream that might benefit Americans? Could the outcome be worse than causing the gruesome death and destruction of millions of people? The arguments against such a proposal were what I expected. One argument claims that we are dreaming of an unworkable utopia, and that way of living is inefficient, impractical, and not cost-effective. But these arguments are baseless and the result of lies and propaganda. We were lied to convince us that the insanity of our current economic system is the only system that could work to keep us from living like free human beings instead of cattle on a giant tax farm. So allow me to dispel the myth that it is inefficient and impractical to live decent lives in decent communities. I'll take just one out of hundreds of possible examples I could have chosen from. This is a small town in the north. Their one and only industry is logging. They cut down the logs and load them onto trucks. The trucks drive hundreds of miles and load the logs onto trains. The trains travel hundreds of miles where the logs are loaded onto ships. The ships sail thousands of miles where the logs are loaded onto trucks. The trucks drive hundreds of miles where the logs are unloaded at a sawmill. The sawmill cuts the logs into lumber where it is loaded onto trucks that drive hundreds of miles to a manufacturing plant. The manufacturing plant turns the lumber into cutting boards. The cutting boards are loaded onto trucks. The trucks travel hundreds of miles where they are loaded onto ships. The ships travel thousands of miles where the boards are loaded onto trucks. The trucks drive hundreds of miles to be unloaded at a warehouse. They are then put on trucks again where they are delivered to retail stores. So when the lumberjack comes home from work, he finds his wife slicing bread on a cutting board that was made in China. Does anyone in their right mind think this is somehow efficient? And what about the so-called carbon footprint of shipping crap back and forth over the entire planet? But you, they're going to tax because you breathe too much. We are told that the low wages in China make this whole system profitable. I have my doubts. The Chinese are and have always been some of the most exploited people in the world. Factory workers typically work 12 to 16-hour shifts, 7 days a week, with 1 day off a month and 1 week off a year to visit their families. They are packed like sardines into company dorms, and many rely on methamphetamine to get through their shifts. They have suicide prevention nets around their factories, for God's sake. This system destroys jobs here, destroys lives in China, and destroys the environment the world over. And what happens when there are no more jobs here? Who is going to be able to afford bread, let alone a cutting board from China? The only thing this system is efficient at is making obscene profits for a few psychopaths before the whole system collapses and takes us all down with it. So what's the alternative? How about we don't ship the logs to China, but instead build a sawmill in this town, and not just a sawmill, but a paper factory, a furniture manufacturer, a log cabin kit builder, craftsman workshops, and artist studios. These provide decent jobs and wages which will support many other small businesses like shops and restaurants and theaters. And to make this sustainable, we don't just clear-cut a forest, but harvest only a percentage while planting tree farms and something like hemp fields, so that the reduced production of trees is offset by another industry manufacturing rope and linen and thousands of other products that can be made from hemp. and the products can be transported on a light electric rail line to a distribution hub that links the country together and bypass that side trip to China. I can't give a solution to all the possible arguments to this idea in a short video, but once you start to think along these lines, you will find solutions on your own. But don't take my word for it. There is actually a historical example of how such a sustainable system really worked for a while, and that place is America in the 1700s, until the bankers arrived.